Well, hey everybody, it's your good buddy 650 Eve here, and I'm very excited to present to you today the world's first 2021 Honda CBR1000RR-R Fireblade SP with an unlocked and unrestricted ECU, and the power of that machine has finally been unleashed thanks to our good friends here at Bren Tuning Moto. You're not going to want to miss it because we're going to put the unlocked and unrestricted Fireblade up against a 2020 BMW S1000RR that also has its ECU flashed by Bren Tuning to see which one of those bikes makes the most power. If you remember, when I got my CBR1000RR-R, it pretty much made, I think, 165 measly horsepower. That just wasn't enough to put the smackdown on the filthy streets. So today, we're gonna see what this bike makes now that it's unrestricted. If you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button. If you're already a subscriber, tap that bell, and you'll get notified when new content is uploaded. Inside the magic room, we have none other than himself, Brendan of Bren Tuning. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you.
Good to see you again, man. I love coming out here because you always work your magic on my machines.
Yes, sir.
And make them super fast and make them more rideable and everything. And I've been working with you for almost 10 years now.
Yeah,
and you
time.
never disappoint.
Thank you.
So today we got the Fireblade SP. Beautiful machine. And up there you got Slim Thug's 2020 S1000RR on your dyno.
Yep, so we're gonna pit these two bikes against each other today. Everyone knows I'm a BMW fanboy. I love all bikes, but to me this is the pinnacle. So let's see if we found a bike that's basically met its match.
Yes.
Same day, same conditions. We're gonna run the bikes 93 pump gas.
Okay.
And see what they make. I think people will be surprised, and I think Honda will be put back on the map. So
Wow.
yeah.
Because this bike, the 900RR from 93 to like 98, right before the R1 came out in 99, was a six Savager machine. I had a couple of those bikes. They were really monsters. They were super fast top end and everything, really rideable. And they handled well too. But this bike, when I got it, was so heavily restricted and neutered that people on filthy Zeds and everything else were smacking me all around the highway systems. And I wanted that to stop. That's why I brought it to you.
Yeah, so these bikes, whether they're rated at whatever crank horsepower for marketing, the US models get about 165 to 170 horsepower, depending on the air filter in the pipe.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is, the drive-by-wire throttle system is at 60% at red line.
Yeah.
So because of that, the power goes to about 10,000 and trails off. The Euro model does not do that, but the Euro model also has different, problems and restrictions as well. So there is, 30 plus horsepower on this bike with remapping it, much like the other Japanese bikes. But this bike in particular has a very strong engine. It's one of a kind, and I think it competes with the BMW. It's very potent, in my opinion, compared to the other Japanese bikes out there. And for now, until everyone else catches up, I think this is the one to have.
No way.
Yeah.
The CBR.
Oh yeah, everything about it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm a BMW fan.
No kidding.
This to me is the closest thing to the whole package of what the BMW gives you, down to the screen, to the handling.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The adjustable quick shifter, you can adjust it in the cluster. Some of the technology advances in this bike are very 2021, when Honda's kind of had the same model forever and not really advanced anything. They've finally done a whole lot with this motorcycle. We're pretty excited to see this and the way it performed. In the beginning, we had our doubts, but a few months of hard work and back and forth, we got this bike to a point where I think anyone who will buy it will be really happy with it. So yeah, we just did we did 3 runs. They're really close and on top of each other. Bike's really consistent. Obviously, a little more heat. You know, you get a horsepower too. These bikes, we're real happy with them. Been doing them forever. They're real consistent. So to see, you know, an off-the-shelf bike come in and make about 285, which is really nice. These bikes, you know, as you've seen in the other videos, they're 186, you know, stock. So they pick up really well. As you can see, they rev to about 15,000 RPMs. I
saw that.
That one worked as intended, as they always do. We will put the CBR on in the same exact conditions within 15 minutes. We will run this one. We'll talk a little bit about the air filter and the foam in the air box. We'll run it the exact same 3 ways. And then we will convert it back to factory spec and show you the differences today, not just what we did in development, because we can revert these bikes pretty quickly. And yeah, it'll be good. And then what you'll see is peak numbers and graphs. What I'll give Eve for the end of this video is to overlay the BMW and the Honda. What you'll notice is peak power is good on the racetrack, but what you see on the street with the shift cam, this bike looks like more displacement by the torque curve. But what matters is you're not racing at 4,000 RPMs. This bike's gonna feel nice on the street, might not require a downshift. The Honda motor is a purebred racing top end shifted engine. In my opinion, has a power curve much like that Aprilia 1100 factory, but without the weight and less displacement. It does pretty well. So it's a different animal, but you guys will be able to see same day, same machine, same tuner, same parts, what they do side by side.
Wow, that's great, Brendan. Great work, sir. Great work as usual. Who would have thought 200 horsepower from a Honda?
So what we're gonna do is show a same-day baseline, the exact same way the bike was delivered here to us, with the Moto Million parts, and obviously the addition of the Brock's special Sprint air filter. Just gonna put the factory software back on this bike. Same strap within a few minutes to show the gains. What you're gonna notice specifically, and we can talk about this later, is this bike tops out at like 181 miles an hour. There's a physical speed limiter. It's not what you see in the cluster. So at the top of 4th gear, the bike is done. You shift into 5th, it stays there. You shift into 6th, the RPM stay there. The European bikes are actually even lower. I don't know why, because the European bike doesn't have the throttle restriction, but the US bike honestly doesn't have enough power in factory form to reach this limiter, but obviously does now. So that was one of those things we had to overcome with the new tuning to suit this for people that are doing that top end race use.
Yes.
The bike is geared very, very long, extremely long. I have a feeling from what we saw, obviously there's mile per hour built into the dyno. There's winter time, we're not really testing it in the race area, but I'm seeing 210 mile an hour plus with the higher rev limiter that this bike has on the stock sprockets.
Ooh.
Because of how it's geared. It's geared extremely long.
Yes.
Whether it has enough horsepower and aerodynamics to get there is one thing, but it's definitely longer than your typical bike that's out right now, which I thought was neat. So Honda decided to, have you in gear longer. I'd love to see what that translates to in the real world, but with the rev limiter set at about 15.6, much higher than your typical bikes out there, and the gearing, it's pretty solid. So on top of that, clearly the fueling's all over the board. The throttle in the US is very different, and the different changes of me being someone who doesn't understand Honda, learning from scratch of how these work. So we obviously have some help and some friends and people that we trade info with that were equally helpful in this project, but all of it was developed on this bike with me to get these certain obstacles finished, and we weren't going to release the bike to you until we were able to meet all those objectives. So now we feel like instead of rushing something out there, copy pasting a European file which has its own problems, calling it a tune like some people do in the Japanese world, we actually do it the right way. Fueling from idle to part throttle to full throttle, each gear. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this.
Yes.
I don't like just sweeping something out the door for, I'm not a YouTube guy, but for YouTube hits.
Right.
Be the first to do something.
Yes.
Eve will tell you that this bike's been done for about 3-4 weeks, and the same way it is right now. The difference is there were little things we were picking away at, trying to get a tool finished, trying to figure out how to scale this to end users. We're not quite ready there, but we are working on that. That required buying other electronics, basically using Sills, our friends at Sills,
yes,
to get us some factory parts that we can, work on, because Eve has to take this bike back and obviously make content with it.
Yeah.
I could spend another 3 months with it tinkering. So we're out of time. We finished what we believe is an amazing tune, one of a kind, better than anything else that's out there right now. Anyone can get this that comes to us. I understand that's different than what we're used to doing. This is new technology, so to scale it into portable form is going to be a little bit. We're making good progress with that, but I think people thinking it's going to happen next week is not a reality. So for now, we're welcoming any of these bikes to our facility to get done right here in the dyno at no extra charge.
Oh, nice.
And
some people like that, Brendan. They like have their bike
Yeah.
on the dyno.
And I know we're known as the remote guys, but people have to understand, like, okay, the new 2021 bikes, no one is tuning these. Everything has changed. Everything started over. So, to be able to get into it like this, and then to be able to get into it in a form that I can mail someone without giving them my personal laptop, is another set of obstacles. FYI, we have worked out the European file, which is much different, with our settings. We're working with people remotely in other shops. We're testing and tuning bikes, in other parts of the world. We won't say where, but those bikes require a completely different setup. It's much, much different than this. The people that think they're just gonna find a European file and put on a US bike, they're gonna run into some big problems. I'm not gonna share what they are, but I ran into them.
Yeah.
So there's a decent amount of differences in the bike. So they need to be done individually, and we've done them individually, and we're happy about that. So without further ado, let me take my laptop off.
Yep.
Let's warm it back up to temperature. Let's do 3 more baselines,
Okay.
and we'll go from there.
You got it.
Down there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So see the air fuel.
Yeah.
So one more thing I'd like to show you.
Yes.
Is the top speed limiter. I'm going to try to blow it up on the screen so you guys can see that with this bike and the European bike, it's done accelerating at the top of 4th gear. It has like a soft limiter. So 5th and 6th gear are not usable at all towards red line.
No way.
So because the gearing is so long, at the top of 4th, you're about 180, and the bike's done. You click into 5th, the RPM stay there. You click into 6th, the RPM stay there. I can actually show you it with the roller measures mile per hour. We can see that this bike is done. I'm just going to try to blow. I'm going to blow up a real mile per hour here. Okay. This is speed. That's also speed. I'm gonna zing through it, and you're gonna watch where it's done.
Okay.
It's not GPS, but it's pretty damn close.
Okay.
All right. Let's go over the results of the way the CBR was just run, factory form.
Yes.
With these slight modifications and the mapping. We're going to overlay it on each other, explain some things.
Okay.
Recap some of the benefits, and then we will compare this bike directly to that S1000 on the chart as well. So I'll have you step up here with me.
Okay.
All right, so the CBR is very dramatic, as you can see. The blue lines here signify the factory mapping. Okay. And the red is the the race mapping. So as you can see, if you look at peak numbers, 78 torque and 85, it's very much different in certain areas. You can see there's huge gains and huge losses. Yes. Right at this point, 9,500 RPM, there is 40 horsepower and 22 wheel torque.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right here, you have 30 wheel torque, 30 horsepower, as low as 5,500 RPMs. This is mostly due to the fact of a freer flow exhaust. I suspect this bottom end won't be as bad with 100% factory bike, but this isn't really the reason. This is probably bad drivability on it. This isn't really the reason why people want to de-restrict these bikes, but it's also big to notice that you're missing out on 50 horsepower. The bike's making 60 foot-pounds till 10,000 RPMs, 61. That is like a 600cc bike. Wow. So a lot of people complain about that. What happens is at 10,000, the bike does come alive, even from the factory, and you can see the gains from here on out. Yes. The difference is right down here, it's about 11.5. The throttle starts basically going back. Not only is the bike lean, the throttle starts rolling backwards as you follow the cursor to 60% throttle here and 55 at the red line. You can see the red line on the factory bike's about 14.4. And on mine, I mean, it's not perfect. The RPM's pretty close, but on mine's, an additional 400 RPMs up here, as you can see. So at peak power, at absolute, red line before the bike starts trailing off, you got 161 horsepower factory, 193.57. Amazing. At the peak here, somewhere around here, it's right about 200, close enough, right? Yeah. There's 33 wheel horsepower at 13,000 RPMs. That's considered, that's your peak for on the tune file. And as you can see, at if you go all the way to 14.8, you have 140 wheel horsepower, 191.78 right as the fuel cuts off, 51 horsepower. Wow. So when you asked me what I thought about this bike, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty dramatic, the change. So This was just done within 10 minutes of each other.
Yes.
The other things I like to, obviously show you is the difference in the air fuel curve for the self tuners out there. You can see how much leaner the blue, which is the factory curve, is.
Yes.
And then obviously even a little richer up top. We've kept the bike compliant down here with the oxygen sensors, and then up top we've found a pretty close mixture to what we like. This bike, in my opinion, likes a tiny bit leaner than other leader bikes to make best power. If you tune this bike like a ZX10, it will spit, sputter, and misfire. We tried everything when we were here. So the bike's definitely, it's got its interesting little personality of what it wants, and that's the whole point of tuning.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say there's something particular probably in the cylinder head to why it wants what it wants. So when you do what it wants, and you use the dyno and your data logging to find the best power. So now obviously you can see we have the throttle is 900% all the way through, and that is a fantastic drastic change. Like I said, 15,000 RPMs, you're looking at 50 wheel horsepower.
Yes.
Where your average person's going to look at peak to peak, which is 173 to 200. That only accounts for a very small part of the power band, not the rest of it. So we wanted to explain to people the differences in these peaks and valleys and dips. I remember when Zach originally called me, he goes, "Can you make the bike not feel like it hits VTEC at 10,000 RPMs?" And now you can see here, the bike goes from being flat to just absolutely taking off and picking up 20, 25 horsepower.
Yes.
So now the bike...
At about 10,000 RPM.
Yeah,
like
so Zach, you were right. Yeah,
he's always right.
So, obviously when I was doing my testing here, we don't know everything about Hondas. So, we have guys we work with, we have Zach, we have Manny, we go back and forth we bounce ideas off each other. So when I had questions, Zach helped me out, other people helped me out. It was a good team effort. So, and without teamwork, none of this stuff would get done.
It's outstanding.
So next thing, unless you had any questions, we could move on to the BMW.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to collapse this graph here. I'm just going to pull up the best CBR, which was 200.2. I'm going to find James's bike here.
Also known as Slim Thug.
Slim Thug. I want to say his last name's Ashton, right?
That's it.
But he's been here before, so I know his name.
Yeah.
And we're going to overlay James's best run with the CBR. So, very cool. The bikes, peak.
Which one's blue, which one's which?
Okay, so blue is the BMW.
Okay.
Red is the CBR. So let me explain this a little bit. Peak 200, CBR 201, very similar. Here. Yes. Peak 85.
Damn, similar. Yeah.
I mean, they're right on the money. But let's explain the differences in the graph, just like we did with the factory CBR.
Okay.
Shift cam is amazing technology. As you can see, up until 9,700 RPMs, the BMW is a flat, torquey machine.
Yes, it is.
Down low, as far as here, let's say at 6,500, the BMW is making 10, 11 more foot-pounds.
Reminds me of a V4.
Yes, yes. So a V4 and a S1000 actually have a very similar power curve when mapped. Yeah. What happens is clearly the way the cylinder head, the cam shaft profile, and the CBR is designed all up top. So as I move the cursor here, and we go to 10,000 and up, the CBR actually starts to come alive and takes off and makes a higher peak figure.
Indeed.
Which is nice. And then, as you can see, which is the interesting thing, right here, about 11.7.
Yep, 11.7.
Same air fuel, same everything. The bikes legitimately lay right on top of each other. That is a compliment not only to Honda, but to BMW.
Indeed.
You would think they copied each other here.
Unreal, man. This is amazing information.
Right on top of each other. Yeah. Obviously, the Honda's got a little bit more red line. But, hey, that's the racing area, and they are photographically identical. Same gear, same everything. So BMW will be nice around town, can probably be up one gear, can probably have a bigger tooth, but the CBR set sail at 10,000 RPM and up. Yeah. And you know, given the same configuration, those bikes should be fairly even. It's going to be rider weight and gearing at that point.
But what I like about it now with your tune is that it doesn't just jump up at 10,000 like Zach said, a VTEC's coming to life.
Yeah.
It's gradually doing that.
The bike, the CBR, is just very unhappy in that form, and it doesn't even seem like it wants to go anywhere, get out of its own way.
In stock form, yeah.
And now it's very similar to, you know, any other leader bike. Obviously, keep in mind, the BMW is obviously dyno the best, the V4 is dyno the best. You know, you have a ZX10 or a GSXR, and this dyno is going to be in the 185 range.
Yes.
So this is a powerhouse, because the BMW's always been the powerhouse with the weaker chassis and the less ability to be, you know, maximum effort, or German bikes are more expensive to mod. It's all a sport. But the CBR is now on par with the BMW. So I guess in conclusion here, which bike is better? The numbers basically say they're equal.
Yep.
You know, which is pretty awesome. They ride very good. They're very nice bikes. So in conclusion, that we know of, the first US tuned, correctly dynoed, data logged, pump gas MR12, 2021 CBR, owned by 650 here, with the features that, you know, the bike needs to perform and make more power. And yeah, one notice too, when people see the video and they say, oh, the truck engine light's on, or the quick shifter doesn't work. When these bikes do go on the dyno, and then you get an instant vehicle speed sensor warning, and because of that, the quick shifter doesn't work anymore. CBRs have been like that forever. So all of that does go away once all two wheels hit the ground and it's on the street. So.
Yeah, because I didn't notice that when we were driving and riding, and now if you fire this thing on, there's no warning lights or anything.
Yeah, so it's part of the whole dyno procedure and how they activate. So if you do see that, that's intentional. It'll happen with every CBR. Cool project coming to an end. Need a little break or vacation till the next one.
Yeah, man.
It's not as easy as it looks. It's stressful. Thanks to everybody who helped out. We got a great team. We got great info. I mean, we basically took something we don't know anything about, got the information we needed, worked with the right people we needed to give this finished product, something that's completely out of our wheelhouse. So came out just like any other of our products. You know, we're definitely a capable team here to basically finish anything, but it's all in, you know, what makes sense at the end of the day. So there's only so many of us.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's about it. So.
Hey man, thanks man.
Yeah.
Great job.
You're welcome.
Great job.
Enjoy.
All right. Okay guys, so you saw it. Brendan here from Bren Tuning totally reformed that bike. Now that the restrictions are removed, the ECU is unlocked. World's first, by the way, unlocked CBR1000RR-R Fireblade SP. And in the next video, you will see us riding these bikes together on the filthy streets. And you're gonna get my impressions of this amazing machine.